Hello, everybody. This is Debo's Film Reviews here, and this week's review will be the SpongeBob SquarePants movie from 2004, featuring Scarlett Johansson as Princess Mindy, Jeffrey Tambor as King Neptune, Alec Baldwin as Dennis, the bounty hunter, and of course, David Hasselhoff as himself. And, oh man, talk about how epic of the SpongeBob movies this movie was. Especially for a movie that was intended on being the series finale for SpongeBob, but which is usually how I almost felt when Nickelodeon show got a movie. That was usually how it's going to be, because they just didn't want to market it as a series finale, because in case they wanted to get picked up at all. But this is kind of a definite standout to where SpongeBob got a movie that wasn't the end of the show. Although in a way it kind of should have been, because the whole premise of it was with Plankton having the King Neptune's crown stolen, blamed on Mr. Krabs, and of course Plankton got the secret formula, and of course tried to rip off Halloween movies like Halloween Free, Season of the Witch with those little helmets and all. At least Plankton didn't have to use an annoying jingle to do it. Either. Following the events of SpongeBob getting passed over for a promotion that he was so excited for, and thought that he was actually going to get it because he's dedicated, and of course, yeah, you know the show. And of course he gets passed over. Identity crisis between trying to question his maturity, and has Patrick join along, following the Krabs being frozen after Plankton stole his crown in order to steal the Krabby formula. And oof, and talk about some of the hilarious adventures there. I started after being motivated by Princess Mindy, played by the legendary Scarlett Johansson. And of course, how epic of a role that was, and of course, excellent portrayal of Dennis, played by Alec Baldwin. I meant to say, and oof, man, did he play a good villain. And I'm not really big on Alec Baldwin, but it's about one of his few good roles. In second Nickelodeon role, besides playing a lot of that episode of Fairly Odd Parents where he played the grown-up Timmy Turner in Channel Chasers, and of course, in a way, I kind of felt like the series should have ended after SpongeBob, but then again, we had to at least get that episode where they meet Johnny Depp character that played the so-called surfer. I don't remember much of that. It's been a while, but I do remember that episode was the whole deal with a Flying Dutchman, and he winds up getting his comeuppance for some. And then, of course, he meets Davy Jones, the monkey, and he goes, "That's right, baby, you are my lucker." Right before it cuts to Daydream Believer, man, which is one of the best monkey songs ever around. written by Jon Stewart of Kingston Trio. That's off topic, and I'll save that for some other movies that might have Jon Stewart's music in there, and I ain't talking about the comedian Jon Stewart either. But overall, SpongeBob movie, epic. After, like I said, after he got passed for promotion to be manager of Krusty Krab 2, which kind of surprising he just didn't market it as another Krusty Krab, just instead of just literally place it right next door. Cause even though we all know about Krab's love for money and all. And among side characters, I kind of thought of a odd deal was I kind of found the lack of Larry the Lobster disturbing. But I do gotta admit, Plankton was one of the greatest animated villains ever. You know how with him and his computer wife Karen and all. And man, and talk about all this epic adventures, like how they got gone to that biker bar, which is the Tug, and then they tried to. And it was funny when they were trying to resist singing the Goofy Goober song after blowing bubbles in it, which in a no bubble zone. In the quest after they had their had the Krabby Patty car stolen, which I always kind of thought was weird that to have SpongeBob drive that thing, yet he could never get his boating license. Which I always kind of thought was like at least one part that should have been, because, of course, between the first episode and that movie, those episodes should have been played out. That one shouldn't have been kind of got played out. And of course, that made one of the greatest animated vehicles ever, the burger car. But they could never get that because they had to get it in one place. They had to get it stolen on their quest to Shell City, and then of course had to, and of course meet what they call the Cycles, were really just a guy in a diving gear, because they realized Shell City was a, spoiler alert, a surface souvenir shop. And then even more funnier, and of course they escaped, and the whole fun epic scene of Hasselhoff. Because Hasselhoff saving the day, and then the whole scene where they're trying to launch him out of space, like Hasselhoff sword power up. Man, that about one of the more funnier parts in it. And of course, I got at the end where SpongeBob defeats Patrick with the power of rock and roll by taking Twisted Sister's Hour on a Rock and just giving a metal reference to the Goofy Goober song, even after a little cheesy cringe part of Patrick wearing stripper boots. And I was like, yeah, it's because SpongeBob's supposed to be a kid show, but it's really for the adults. We all know it is. That's kind of why it became Nickelodeon Simpsons. Following the first movie, which is the one I'm reviewing now, which I of course give about a 5 out of 5, because it has about a good and a turning point. And I'd say and personally, I consider a turning point fall between that and the Davy Jones episode I mentioned. Man, animated masterpiece. and back when Nickelodeon was actually good. Alright, y'all. I hope y'all liked, subscribe, enjoy, and I'll